All right. Well, yeah, maybe there's something to be said from that. I'm going to bring up a couple of the damaged photos. So I'm going to be just sharing these kind of briefly, but let's start with this one. Okay, get rid of that. There it is. I think that's the damaged warehouse, or is it at least a damaged agricultural facility? So, and you can see it looks like there's pigs in there.
I've heard of many hog confinement facilities. So
That's what it
farms
is.
that are
That's what it
raising
is.
lots of pigs. I'm surprised the whole state of Iowa doesn't have pigs running loose across it now. They're apparently in a lot of places.
But this level of damage is kind of what I'm used to seeing on tornado pictures, not from something like this.
Right. And in some of the pictures, that I've seen have actually looked more like EF2 damage in tornadoes, which I think is about 110 or higher for the wind speeds. But one big difference, keep in mind, when a tornado hits, you have those really strong winds hit you for maybe a minute or two. So in this case, the really strong winds were hitting for 10 to 20 straight minutes. So that is going to do more damage for a given amount of wind, more damage than if a tornado had that amount of wind and hit you.
And this particular facility looks like it's very exposed. You've got a couple of silos next to it, which oddly enough are perfectly intact. And that's also like a tornado, but then not like, this type of damage is not something you would expect to see from anything but a tornado. And it's pretty amazing. It's Tama County.
Right. Tama County is just a little, I think it's the 2 counties east of me here in Ames, so probably 50 miles east of me.
Okay. Well,
and I'm guessing those silos probably either had water in them or were filled with grain because it was a hog facility. Normally, most of the big grain silos in Iowa, this is the time of year where they're the most empty because the farmers are trying to use up any grain in them to get ready for the harvest. And it turns out when grain bins don't have grain in them, they're much more susceptible for damage. So they look like crushed tin cans all across the state.
Well, and yes, I'm working on getting one of those up right now. Okay, of course, I've got lots of photos here I'm trying to share. That one, let's see. Can you see that one?
I see the top, like the sky, just.
Okay, all right. That's what I thought. I'm working on. This is the trouble with having only one computer to do all this on. There it is. There's the one I want. Okay, now you can see that. And that's, a whole series of grain bins which were not full. What I find really amazing about this is the indentation, the imprint, in terms of the damage. It really just suggests that it's like something took a fist and punched into the middle of a huge fist and punched into the grain bin.
Right. And that again, I think is a sign, that these were straight line winds. The wind was just plowing into that from the west in this case, and was able to just to crush it. Years ago, I was an expert witness in a trial where a grain bin had sort of gotten damaged or collapsed in a storm. And my impression is they are built to withstand winds up to about 90-ish miles per hour. So, the fact that so many failed is consistent with this idea that winds were 90 miles per hour or more over a pretty large chunk of Iowa.
Absolutely. The images are just amazing to me. I've got a couple more. This is from a farm field. And come on, there we go. From Scranton, Iowa. The farmer standing in the middle of what used to be his cornfield.
And you see that absolutely everywhere around here. It's very sad.
Yeah. What is the damage estimate currently? Do you know?
I had heard probably from crops alone, the estimate is $3.8 billion.
I can believe that. I guess I'm not getting corn on the cob in the grocery store anytime soon.
Although ironically, we have lots of corn stands around our city. And when we got our power back a few days after the Derecho, my wife brought some home, and the people selling it said they picked it off the ground from their corn plants that morning. And I have to say, it was probably the best tasting corn on the cob I've had.
Okay, I'm going to show another picture from Tama County and more grain bins. And this one's even more amazing than the other one.
Wow.
Yeah, this grain bin, I mean, it looks like it's completely ripped off the foundation, and so is the second one. And they plowed into the third one, which ran into a fourth one, which is still intact. But yeah, it's not just the idea of it having a fist punch into it, but totally ripped it off the foundation, and it's like a set of dominoes.
Right. That's the first thing that came to my mind too, is dominoes. In fact, I haven't heard anybody talk about this. I'm glad you showed this picture, Jeff. It'd be interesting to see farms when they had the different orientations of the grain bins, what was better or what was worse. In this case, the winds were out of the west and they were aligned west to east. I don't know, was that better or worse? If they were four in a north-south line, maybe they all would have looked like the first one.
A good question. And I don't have a good, perspective on that. I'm assuming someone's doing photo surveys and damage surveys for at least insurance purposes, if nothing else.
I hope so. And, and to be honest, when I see pictures like this, I mean, the highest measured wind from any station was 112. But when I see pictures like this, I keep thinking, I would bet money that there was even stronger winds than that. But again, the wild card is we're so used to only seeing winds that strong in the Midwest from a tornado. But in this case, the winds lasted a long time. And so, maybe it didn't take, I'll say, 140 mile an hour winds to do this. It just took 10 minutes of 100 mile per hour winds.
Well, that's a good question. And the last thing I'm going to show in terms of an image is actually, this is another graphic from the National Weather Service Des Moines website. So this is what they have put out there in terms of winds. So a very wide swath of 60 plus mile per hour, a narrower band of 80 plus mile per hour. And so they don't claim that Ames had more than, like, I guess, 79 mile per hour winds. And these intermittent 100 plus areas, and there's Tama County over here on the right. Marshalltown, Boone is right there. So
right. I found this interesting, Jeff. Just real quick, I wanted to add, so my son lives in a small town south of Ames. It's right in that green swath of intermittent 100 miles per hour.
Okay.
He finally got power back yesterday afternoon after 9 days. And in that path, many roofs were blown off of houses. So the damage does look like from a major tornado down there. But he said, when he got up into Ames, the south part of the city, he's thinking, oh, it didn't look very bad at all. But when he got to my house, which is at the very north edge of the city, he was commenting, we had a street light a few blocks from us that was blown down on the ground. It was bent 90-degree angle, 1 foot above the ground.
Wow.
Speed limit sign was snapped off. The metal snapped at the base, and the damage was much worse. So, that basically the 80-degree line or 80 mile per hour line there is kind of across the north side of the city. This is, there's no weather instruments. I have a friend, another meteorology professor, has a weather station. I said, well, how high did the winds get at your house? 14 miles per hour, because the power failed, 3 minutes before the winds really hit. So there's no data in a lot of these areas. So this is an estimate.
Yeah.
But I would say the general concept is correct, that the original swath missed Ames to the south, but where there's, fuzziness, we're not sure, is where did the next swath start. And I would bring probably that blue area down more into the north half of the city.
Yeah. And yeah, this is preliminary, so I expect this will get revised considerably before it's all said and done.